Got me a big hearty gulp that time. Welcome back to Sippin With Sin, the podcast where we talk about stuff and things and stuff that are important to everyone and us, and mainly just us. And if you're listening, I guess they're important to you too. So, good job. But welcome back. Happy to have you here for another episode, another week of us rambling about cool stuff. But yeah, I must digress. We're gonna stay on task this week. Last week we spiraled out of control, and I'll take full responsibility because I like to rile Christian up. So I'll take responsibility for pissing him off, you know, and it's been fun. It's kind of like a hobby. You want to piss Christian off and get him all riled up, but sometimes you do it too much, and then you just spiral down the hole, and then, you know, it's 3 hours later, and you're still on the same subject, and Christian's still rambling, and it happens. It does indeed happen, but without further ado, let's welcome Christian back for yet another episode. I think this is episode 50-something. I lose count. I think it's 52, actually. So that would be a whole year's worth of podcasts. Although we did pass our 1 year mark a couple weeks ago or a week or two ago. 1 year of the podcast. So celebrate that and celebrate Christian coming back.
Oh yeah, man.
1 year, dude. What do you think?
I think that it doesn't feel like it's been that long, to be honest. Like we just kind of do it. It's a habit now. You know,
Yeah.
We get on here and we talk about whatever we're going to talk about, and then we're done. And It's been a year. Damn.
A year, man. I think one of our first episodes, wasn't that something to do with like St. Paddy's Day movies?
You know what? It's funny that you say that because I keep notes about most of the episodes, and I can fact check that right now because
Or maybe that episode got pushed farther back. We recorded that early. I don't remember. I think our first few episodes are about like the Batman and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that before, like our very first ones, before we'd actually seen it, maybe. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, no, it was. No, that's number 2. What was I didn't write down number 1, so I don't know what number 1 was. I think that was the first time we did the stories. You know, we're sharing the spooky stories. I think that's what was going on with that.
Yeah.
And then the second episode we did was about the Batman. It was Sinister Tales was the first one. Sinister Tales was the first one, and the second one was mostly welcoming Papa Ding, and then we talked about comics a lot, and then the Batman.
Yeah, I remember we went on a whole tangent about comics.
Yeah.
If you've been listening since episode 1, let us know. I would love to know who all has been here since day 1. Who is a day 1 OG, day 1-ish? You know, who's there?
I see you. Oos. I hear you.
We're keeping it oosy up in here. Keeping it oosy. All right. Well, we're not dilly-dallying this week. We're getting down to business because we got stuff to talk about. So what we like to do to start every episode is what we've been into, watching, reading, listening to, and playing this past week. And yeah, we didn't really spend much time on the 1 year thing, but you know, here's the year number 2. We've grown in a year, I think, maybe.
You can see my face now.
Yeah. See, look at the upgrades we have now. It's crazy. I'll start. I'll kind of get going because I know I'm gonna spike Christian's interest. First, gaming wise, I just went blank. But let's see, what have I done gaming wise? I tried a brand new game actually yesterday. I was lucky enough they sent me a key, and it's a new FPS game by Blue Owl Studios called Leap. It is crazy. The movement and stuff is crazy. I'm not gonna lie, your boy got shit on a lot. In the PvP, I got destroyed. I was like, dang, these dudes are legit. Dudes being, you know, it could be female, it could be male, it could be whatever. But I got destroyed. Legit destroyed. The PvE was pretty fun. It's a pretty solid game. It wasn't bad at all. I think it's got a 6 out of 10 on Steam right now. It's an indie game, but it was fun to play, fun to check out. Another thing I played a little bit of. I've had some issues with my computer running it because I need to upgrade because your boy's a slacker and shit's expensive. But Sons of the Forest. Do you know much about The Forest, Christian?
I don't.
You ever heard about the game The Forest? So you know Ark, right? The dinosaur.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know Rust, like those kind of survival games where you build bases and shit. Have to eat and drink and all that. Think that. But then to me, honestly, the first thing that pops into my head, and this is probably a horrible comparison, is Is it Green Inferno? Is that what I'm trying to think of? Eli Roth, Green
Where
Inferno?
they get stuck with the cannibals, I think.
Yes, it's cannibals. Like you get in a helicopter crash, you're out on this island, you're like doing stuff, you're running around. Like they got me eaten by a shark because I had my community playing with me and they're a bunch of assholes. And they were like, "Hey, let's go get this gun on this raft." And I swam out there and everybody's on the raft and I couldn't get up and I got ate by a damn shark.
Wow.
That was the first
I
30
hope
minutes
that
of the game. That's how that went.
I truly hope that is ready to be posted on YouTube, because I'd
I
love to
mean,
go back
it
and
wasn't
watch
because we
some.
were having issues with stuff. It sucks. There was a lot of stuff. So that
Yeah.
was the first 30 minutes. The next 30 minutes, we're running around and someone's like, "Oh," and you hear this weird like screaming and crying in the woods, and then this damn like I don't even know like hairy man crawling on all fours like attacked me and we killed him and I was like, all right, get up off me. And then there was like these straight up cannibals like painted up with like bones everywhere and they had me on a stick tied up and there was just a lot of shit was happening. There's a 3-armed, 3-legged woman running around that's half naked.
Oh,
But apparently
God.
she's friendly, but I chase her off and call her Beatrice. I mean, dude, there's so much shit going on in this game. Look, this is essentially the summary of it. We are building our community. Like one of them found like a nice clearing. We built like a little community. There was like I think 5 of us in this game. So there's 5 different houses being built. I come back with these logs I'm carrying to build my log cabin. There's 2 damn cannibals in my damn house just waiting on me. And they started yelling at me and trying to kill me, so I had to murder them. And then I wanted to Vlad the Impaler outside of them, stick their heads on spikes, and yeah. The game escalated quickly, but it's a pretty dope game. I can't lie. It's actually pretty fun. There's a lot of fun stuff in it. I don't even know. Apparently there's mutants in it, but I haven't encountered them yet. I don't even know what that would be and why there's mutants, but there's mutants. And yeah, so I've been playing that. That's pretty much been game-wise. I didn't get to start a story game this week because I knew I was going to be playing the Leap and stuff like that. Watching-wise, spoiler for you guys, if you're expecting Mando this week, me and Christian are slackers. Neither one of us, I don't think, have watched episode 1 yet. This week has been pure chaos for me. If you have ever watched wrestling in your life and you know when someone just goes postal with a steel chair, and just beats the hell out of somebody, literally like over and over in the back in the ring, that's essentially what this week has done to me because Baby Sin has been on about a 15 all week and just everything is just like beat me down. So that's been my week. But I did watch a couple things. One of them, I watched The Whale, which
Nice. How's that?
Brendan Fraser was fantastic. The prosthetics, fantastic. Dude, so good. Like, it's a very, like, there's obviously, it's about a 600-pound obese man. There's not a lot of, like, action and stuff going on. It's more of just, like, storytelling and dialogue, and it's really good if you're into that, and I can see why. I'm not sure. Did it win an award or was it just nominated? Do you know?
I know for sure that it was nominated, and yeah, I think it did win. I'm pretty sure it won.
I can see why. He did amazing. Like he did fantastic. Sadie Sink, is that her name?
Yeah.
From Stranger Things.
Mm.
Yeah, she's in it. She did really good. She's definitely typecast as a certain type of character. I feel like because she plays that in pretty much everything I see her in. But she does it well, so it works. Also, we watched most of Massive Unbearable Weight or whatever it is of Talent or whatever the Nicolas Cage, Pedro Pascal movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't remember. I probably butchered the name.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That movie is hilarious.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's so dumb, it's funny. Like, yeah, there's memes everywhere. And then, Christian, you ready for this? I've watched 2 Batman animated movies because I've held him off on the show. Any more shows right now? I'm like, let's slow our roll for a minute. He's been watching Teen Titans with the missus. She loves Teen Titans, so they've been watching that. I've watched 2 movies. Actually, technically, it's 3 because one's broke up. I've watched Batman Hush, which is my favorite Batman story, comic-wise. And I've watched Batman The Long Halloween, part 1 and 2.
Nice.
Which one do you want to hear about first, Christian?
Here's the thing. I definitely want to hear about what I believe is the worst one last. So let's talk about the Long Halloween.
Long Halloween is fantastic. Dude, honestly, I will say this. Out of the Batman animated movies I've watched thus far, haven't seen them all, so there's your thing. It possibly is my favorite. I really liked it. Jensen Ackles
Excellent.
is no Kevin Conroy, but I don't hate his Batman. His voice kind of already fits it without him trying to do anything, if that makes sense. Like, he literally can just speak normally, and it kind of just works.
He does. Like, it's kind of just his regular voice.
Yeah,
So
it's no fancy, like,
only,
hey, you know, like, he's not trying to deepen it. He's literally just talking, and it actually works as Bruce Wayne and Batman to me. Like, it's good.
yeah, I expected, like, there's a scene in the movie where you could totally catch if he's like Dean or Sam,
Yeah.
from like Supernatural. I'm always waiting for something like that. Him talking about pie, him yelling his brother's name, saying Cass or Castiel, but like that doesn't happen. But just the movie itself, or both parts of that, were really good. I do believe that part one is better than part two, but that's just because I
Why is
think
the
that
art
part one,
so different to me than the other movies? It's not in a
they're
bad way there. I actually
differentiating.
really like that style for whatever reason. It to me, it's different. I don't know if it's the lines, maybe the
It's
shading.
everything. It's a completely different art style because it's there to differentiate the movies that just ended, which you haven't seen them all yet, but you'll watch Justice League Apocalypse, I think is what it's called. Once that movie is over, Flash runs back in time, kind of like Flashpoint, and starts everything all over again on purpose, and it's so that they can make a new set of animated films in a different,
Okay.
a different kind of way. And this is the start of that. So the first of those movies that we got was Superman. I can't remember the name of it, but like Parasite's the villain in it, and it's like the origin almost of Superman is what that is, and it starts off the new art style and everything. You get Long Halloween. There is a
Do you like
Flash
that art style?
film that turns into a Justice Society film. Do I like the art style? Yes, I think it's very clean, very crisp. It looks cell shaded, but it's not.
Yeah.
But I do really like it. It fits the characters really well, and I hope that we get a lot more in
Joker's
that.
got
Like,
some
there's a Green
skinny
Lantern
ass
movie
legs
that
too.
way. There's a couple things, and they have more to come. They just did a Super Sons movie, which is Damian Wayne and Jonathan Kent. So Superman's son, Batman's
I
son,
think
and
I
they have
saw
their
that
own
on
film. I
there.
actually watched it. But yeah, it's very different from the comics. It's very
What, Super
different
Sons?
from the comics. Hmm.
That might be one I watch soon. Joker's different. So I will say this about the Joker. I'm not gonna go in detail on Long Halloween. It's fantastic. I do really, really like it. Like, I really enjoyed both of them. Um, yeah, I really didn't have any complaints on it. Calendar Man was interesting to me. I don't know much about Calendar Man, who isn't a forefront villain, but he's in Arkham, and that's probably one of my first times being introduced to Calendar Man, and he seems interesting.
You saw him in the games.
Oh yeah, awesome. Arkham looked really cool in the movie. I liked how they did Arkham. Um, Joker. So when I first heard Joker's voice, there's been a couple different ones we've heard and we've talked about on the podcast. Favorite voice Joker, Mark Hamill. Luke Skywalker, for those that don't know who Mark Hamill is. It kind of sounded a little bit like Mark Hamill, and then I was like, that's not him though. Like, there's certain things you can hear Mark Hamill's voice that just makes it, you're like, that's Mark Hamill. Like, you can just tell the laugh, certain things he says. But this is pretty similar, and I was like, it's not him, but it's really good. And so I actually messaged Christian, and I was like, who's the Joker? Because IMDb didn't say it. Like, it legit didn't list the Joker, and I was making me kind of mad. I was like, why is it not listed? And he's like, I think that's Troy Baker. And I was like, oh, no way. So I actually then looked farther on Google, and damn if it's not, and he's on the credits. Those who don't know Troy Baker, the voice of Joel from the video games The Last of Us. This dude, god dang, he might be my second Joker voice favorite ever. Like, it's so good I
He's
paused
been the
it and made the
Joker a
missus
few
listen,
times.
and she was like, okay, that's a pretty good Joker. And I was like, that's Joel. And she's like, what? And I was like, that's freaking Joel. This dude is a beast. Like,
Yeah,
Very
the
impressive.
he's been the Joker before. The first time I heard him as the Joker was in the Batman Arkham Origins game. That's the first time I heard him as the Joker, and I think he was in one of the movies too. I think he was in the animated Suicide Squad movie. Um, so yeah, he's been the Joker a couple times, and he does a really good job each
Yeah,
time.
dude's extremely talented. Also, I've been kind of watching some of his interviews, Last of Us like related. Man, I'm becoming more and more of a fan of Troy Baker the more I hear him speak and talk on things. He
Mm.
puts things so elegantly and just, dude, I'm kind of fanboying over Troy Baker a little bit. Dude's impressing me. It's super.
Tell us about Hush.
And there comes the Hush. Look, okay, before we do that, I'm gonna go back. It's been a long time since I went through Long Halloween the book. I actually have it, or whatever. What is it called? The big thick one? I think it's all of it.
Uh, it's probably called the Absolute Edition.
It's thick as hell. So I'm like, it's a yeah. I don't think it's
Like it's a trade, but I don't know which
yeah. It doesn't
version
say
that you
part. It
have.
just
It's
says a
kind
Long
of like,
Halloween. So I'm assuming that's the whole thing, right?
yeah, the Long Halloween in general. When you buy the trade, which is I'm sure what you have, it's the whole story. So you don't have to worry about it being in parts. They only broke it up in parts for the animated film, so that not only they could tell the whole story, but they wanted to add and flesh out some of the characters,
Yeah,
like
it's like
Harvey and his wife.
I think both are three or an hour and a half each. Both parts is 2 parts. You can watch them on HBO. So like 3 hours total, but it's worth it. It's super good. I'm gonna go back and read the book, because I did really like it, and I just want to
There are
refresh.
differences you will notice.
Do what?
So there are definitely differences that
Bad
you will notice
differences?
aside from the art style and the relation. So the relationship between Batman and Catwoman is different. The backstory for Catwoman is different. Batman fight. He goes to Chinatown at the beginning of the movie and fights off that gang. That's not in the book at all. Um, the mystery of the holiday killer is also different, but it works very well in the movie. And the fate of one of the characters in particular, what's his name's son, in the movie. If
Alberto,
you've seen the movie, yeah, Alberto, his fate is
who
different.
is
Like that's completely.
Huey from The Boys, voiced him.
Was it him?
Yeah,
I didn't
Jack
realize
Quaid,
that it was
I
him.
think's his name.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah,
voices Alberto Falcone. Is that who it is? Is it Falcone?
yeah. I didn't realize that was him. I didn't look it up, but I watched the movie a while
So you
ago,
had Soldier
so
Boy and
it's
Huey in Long Halloween. Pretty crazy. Okay, but yeah, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go through that. I may even read it to my son. Don't judge me. He loves Batman. He'll be ecstatic, or he'll tear it up, and then I'll be super sad. Um, Hush, Hush to date is my favorite Batman book that I've read. Favorite Batman story, I guess I should say. Right? Story, I guess.
Mhm.
I guess that's how you look. So I've waited on watching the movie because I didn't want to be disappointed. I didn't want him to screw up something I loved. So I finally watched it. And I'll be damned, guess what they did? Disappointed the shit out of me. They literally, what they did is they took that book, they set it down on a table, they dropped their pants, and they just took a big steaming shit on it. That's what they did. And
They
then lit
did.
it on fire.
That's what they did. They
So
absolutely did. I fucking
they
hate the
changed
animated
so
rendition of Hush.
much about that damn story. Because I'm trying to think. Hush was. He was one of. Okay, if you haven't read it, well, I'm sorry. Hush has been out a long time. And there's even a movie. Hush, the villain, is Bruce Wayne's childhood friend or something. He's like a longtime friend.
Thomas
Is he a
Elliott.
doctor?
In the
Okay.
book, yeah.
And so I actually thought Hush, the person, was going to be the doctor you meet early in the movie. Oh, no, it's not. Spoiler, it's the fucking Riddler. So stupid. God, it's so stupid. Oh, it made me so mad.
A small part of me understands why the Riddler's part is like it is, because
So
if you remember in
dumb.
the book, the Riddler plays a significant part in the book, but like not like that, not the way that it is in the movie.
No.
The way that it is in the movie, in my opinion, is fucking butt cheeks. That's
It's boo-boo
total
shoes.
total garbage. I hated I mean, we're already spoiling the movie if you hadn't seen it. Like, you're not missing anything if you haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Do yourself a favor and don't see it.
don't read the book.
Read the
Read
fucking
the book,
comic.
please. Just
But
read the
like
book. Book is
the
fantastic.
part of the movie where the Riddler gets all jacked out of his mind and he's pretty much Bane and all that, dude. I was so pissed and checked out. I did not like the art style at all going into the movie, but I was trying to, just enjoy it just because the best part of that entire movie, in my opinion, is this Batman Superman fight, which is still different from the book. But like it, here's the thing: in the comic, and I'll make this quick, and then I'll be done. In the comic, Batman has a kryptonite ring, That's all he has. And when he's fighting Superman, you're reading Batman's monologue, right? And he breaks every bone in his hand punching Superman, even though he has a kryptonite ring. But he gives Superman a black eye, and like that's like a win because he's fucking Superman. He's essentially comic god. What are you gonna do to him? And in the movie, the animated film, he doesn't have a kryptonite ring that he's using. He has kryptonite brass knuckles, and they're not just any brass knuckles; they're spiky brass knuckles. Like, why?
Because
Why
they
did we
hate
need
us.
that? I could understand if they wanted to make it a little more fair, I guess, for Batman and gave him more kryptonite to use against Superman. Like I get that portion, but why give him a spiky brass knuckle duster for that? Like that doesn't make any sense. Didn't he
You
have
know
two
why?
of them?
Because they hate us, Christian.
Was it two of them that he had, or just one?
I can't remember because I was so mad during that movie.
It was so dumb, and a lot of people. I am in the minority for this. The majority of Batman fans, for some reason, just clamor and hang on to the gray and blue Batsuit. And I am not one of those people. I think that if you were reading it in a comic is one thing, but like seeing it in this and then in live action and stuff, looking at a Batman with a gray and blue suit on just doesn't hit the same as the gray and black. I understand people got tired of the full black costume that he would have in the movies. I get it. I thought it was dope, but whatever. You get the gray and black and it looks good. It's a breakup of the colors. It doesn't look like one solid piece. Like I get it. You could do muscle definition differently. It hits in the light differently. It hits on the shadows differently. All of that. But when you get the blue and the gray, it doesn't hit the same. And then the last thing that I'll talk about is another thing that made this story so to me was the addition of Damien. Damien doesn't exist yet when this story is told. So shoehorning him
True.
into the movie to match the continuity that they have, just I just hated it, man. I was not a fan.
Yeah. 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 That's all I have on that because we could rant about it forever. Because long, long story short, watch Long Halloween. Don't watch Hush. Read the book. Read both
Mhm.
books, actually. Read Hush and read Long Halloween. Go support stuff and buy stuff because they're good. Okay, what have you been into? Sorry.
I'm gonna do mine quickly because we spent way too much time on that.
Yeah, we
I
always do.
did watch Megan this week, or Mithrigan. Um,
Jesus.
it's streaming right now on Peacock. You can watch the theatrical or the uncut edition. I watched the uncut edition because that's who I am as a person, and I liked it. I mean, I thought it was good. It has a lot of plot holes, and the characters in that movie are really stupid. But the movie doesn't take itself seriously. It's very much so made to be a horror comedy, and that's exactly what you get from the film. So I like it, and I'm ready for part two. Give me part three. Like I'm ready for this to franchise off and be its own thing. I can't wait to see more of it. I really enjoyed it. The next thing I've been doing is I've been reading again, and I'm reading Taking Shape, the book
Oh, I'm
all
so
about
mad you
the
have that. I
Halloween.
want to read that so bad.
It's a great read, I will say, and I've got my little Jim Carrey Riddler bookmark here.
Ha.
But dude, I've been reading this. It's great. Just reading about the first movie. Just reading about the first movie. I thought I knew everything about it. I didn't. Uh, this book is great, so I can't wait to get completely through it. I have another one to go through once I'm done with this one, Taking Shape 2, and then hopefully by the next episode, I will have a different book that is all about the Chucky series. So I'm going into that and enjoying it. And then two other things. One last thing I watched was Cocaine Bear. I saw
Yeah,
that
I want to
this
see that
past
bad.
weekend, and long story short, I fucking love that movie. It's exactly what you think it's gonna be if you watch the trailer, and they gave me exactly what I wanted, which was a fun popcorn movie. So thank you for that. I loved it. I think you should totally go see it. It's worth watching. Turn your brain off and just enjoy some silly cocaine out or coked out bear action. It's great. And then the last little bit of news that I had was I just saw the announcement today that Blumhouse has announced that they are working on a Dead by Daylight movie with James Wan. So I'm super excited to see what they do with that. I want to know what killers they're going to go with. I want to know what survivors they're going to go with. How they're going to change that story around. If they're going to include the entity in this, like how that's going to be. Because if you remember, if you've ever played Dead by Daylight, there's a bunch of killers and there's a bunch of survivors. But most of the killers that they have are licensed out killers from different franchises. But when the game started, it was all killers for the game that they made up for the game. So you had characters like the Trapper, the Hillbilly, I think it was his name, and then or just Billy, I can't remember what his name was. And then you had like the nurse, the doctor. But then there's other characters that came up later on, like the Huntress and stuff. So we'll see what happens. But that got announced today. I'm super excited to see what they do with that. And that will be one of those movies that Blumhouse franchises out, and they give us a new one like every year or so. And we'll have 4, 5 of those before it
Hopefully they do. They're
burns.
good and they're not
Unless the
awful.
first one is total ass, we'll see what happens. But that's what I've been doing this week.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, one other tiny bit of news before we get into stuff and things would be not officially, but kind of official. It was leaked through, I think, an investor call, but Mortal Kombat 12 was pretty much announced for 2023. It was said in an investor call. Somehow it got leaked out, and Ed Boon confirmed it without confirming it and making it official. And then he also trolled saying, so what'd you guys think about the Injustice 3 news when he was talking about Mortal Kombat 12, because Ed Boon is a gigantic troll and loves to do it. But yeah, Mortal Kombat 12 this year. Christian, thoughts?
I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I am. And I loved Mortal Kombat 11. I've liked almost every Mortal Kombat that we've gotten, to be honest with you. However, I am not happy I'm not as happy as everyone else that we're getting MK12 this year, because though Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite fighting games of all time, one of the best franchises I think of all time, my favorite fighting game franchise actually happens to be a newer fighting game franchise made by the same studio, which is Injustice. So I have been wanting Injustice 3 for so long
Do you
now.
even
I
know what
think
they
it's
could?
been
What could they continue the story of Injustice 3? Is there stuff they can do?
they can do so many. It's a fighting game. You can do whatever you want. You
Well, I
know what I
mean,
mean?
but
Like
you're
there's
labeled
different
as
universes.
Injustice. That's what I'm saying. Like
Mhm.
that story, it's kind of gone with 2. I mean, the Injustice story ended with 1 technically.
Not necessarily, because if you play at the story for two, they fought a major villain, right? Brainiac, and then
Yes.
depending on which ending you go to, you get the Superman ending, which is the bad ending, or you get the Batman ending, which is considered the good ending. So they could pick and choose from those and keep going forward with the story, because there's so many other characters in the universe that we haven't seen yet in the games and even in the comics. But you could absolutely keep telling that story if you wanted to. That's the point of these games, right? You can do whatever you want. And with something like the DC universe, we know that there are infinite universes, parallel universes, so they could pick and choose from any of those to keep telling the story if they wanted, right? I know that Kevin Conroy is no longer with us, so we wouldn't get him voicing Batman, but because it's parallel universe, we could get Long Halloween Batman and it'd be Jensen Ackles. We could get the new Superman and it'd be I forget the guy's name who's voicing Superman right now. We can get new Flash. We can get Michael Rosenbaum Flash. We can get anything we want. That's the point of the games. Plus, like, how many people are playing these fighting games solely for the story? Like,
Not
I
many, but
want the story
we're the
personally.
minority probably.
Exactly. We're the minority. We want the story. I definitely want the
NetherRealm
story.
puts
I want
out
the
the
story to be
best
good.
fighting game stories to me.
They really do. They take their time.
So just to play advocate on it, and also what I've heard why Injustice 3 isn't out is something to do with the WB rights, or maybe the sale of WB is what's like holding that up, I think.
I think that I think that it could be that that's a really good reason slash excuse for that. And I'm not even like, it's an excuse. I hate everyone. I want the game I want. It's more so just this. Ed Boon already announced 2 years ago, I believe it was, in a live stream or something, that I think it was an interview with GameStop or something. To be honest with you, IGN, GameStop, one of them, when they were promoting Mortal Kombat 11. So this was years ago, and we already knew that he was going to do something different this time because the formula was Mortal Kombat Injustice, Mortal Kombat Injustice. He let us know that he was going to change up the format, and a lot of people took that to mean NetherRealm was going to do a whole different fighting game. We're going to do a Marvel type fighting game from NetherRealm, which obviously wasn't going to be the case because Marvel's not going to license out the characters to anyone because it's Marvel. So
Marvel don't want their characters getting the NetherRealm treatment either. Which DC got watered
exactly.
down. Mortal Kombat, you don't really get fatalities, but still, there's some stuff in it.
That was the trial run though, right? That game was the trial run, and because that game sold copies and people wanted to see Batman punching Scorpion and Superman punching Sub-Zero, like people wanted that stuff. Crossovers are fucking huge. They've always been that since the dawn of crossovers. That's been a thing, right? That's why the Justice League exists. That's why the X-Men and the Avengers meet up, like all that stuff. But anyway, back to the point. I don't think that Marvel would be down for something like that. And they had the trial run for it, and then we got Injustice, right? Injustice 1 came out and it fucking slapped. It made money. I chose Batgirl, wrecked everyone.
You didn't have
and
Batgirl to
people are
start with.
still
Quit
mad.
lying. Batgirl was
People are
DLC.
still mad to this day.
Who
Still
was your
mad to
main
this day
before
about that because that's
Batgirl?
the point, though. That's the point.
Who was your main before Batgirl?
That game came out and it slapped. And then
Hey,
after that, we got Injustice 2.
Christian.
Injustice 2 slapped.
Christian.
So I was hoping we would get Injustice 3. Yep. What's up?
Who was your main before Batgirl? Because she was DLC.
My main before Batgirl was probably Green Arrow.
Yeah, what happened
if
to
I
Green
remember
Arrow?
correctly.
Green Arrow caught them hands.
He was fine, He did what he was supposed to do until I got somebody else that was much better.
Yeah, you got the pettiest character in the history of fighting games. I'm gonna drop from the damn ceiling 24/7. Whatever. Get out of here.
That was a very easily blockable move, sir.
Listen.
I just think that people did never see it coming.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not see it coming when it's spammed and she won't get out of the damn ceiling?
I think people just need to understand that if you choose a character that has a teleport move, it could be annoying. But like I said, she was easy to block. When people used Batgirl against me, I knew exactly what to do against her. All you had to do against Batgirl was hold block and make sure that you were in her face at all times. And it was simple. And then you have people would choose characters like Deadshot, Deathstroke, who just shoot you to death and then you're dead. You can't do anything. So that always sucked. But anyway, all that to say, I'm excited that we're getting Mortal Kombat 12. I'd rather it be Injustice 3, but you can't always get what you want.
Yeah.
So
it'll be a good year for fighting games. Tekken 8, right? Is it 8?
Mm-hmm.
Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, and Mortal Kombat 12 potentially. So a good year for people who enjoy fighting games, and I'm one of them. But we're gonna move on to wait. Did you have news before we go?
I already told it. We're good.
Good. I'm glad you told your news. Good job. Way to be on top of it this week. We're going on to our main topic, and that would be The Last of Us episode 6, right? No. What episode are we on? 7. 6.
I don't remember. I didn't write it down, I don't think.
Well, we got 2 more episodes? No. So that was episode 7. That was episode 7. We did 6 last week.
We got 2 left?
Right? Yeah. Hold on. Now I got to look this
up. I think it's only 9 episodes.
Dude, my
you ready to jump right into
is
it?
Mush. The Last of Us. I'm pretty sure we just watched episode 7. Last of Us. Yeah, we just watched episode 7. So 7. Left Behind would be it, correct?
You ready to jump into it?
I am ready. So I was trying to think if there's anything I want to say beforehand. But I'll just save it.
I don't have a whole lot of notes, so you can say.
Yeah, just go ahead and do your breakdown, and we'll talk about it. I will say there was a lot of stuff from the game in this. If you have never played the DLC of Last of Us, then this episode was probably pretty foreign to you, and you're like, I don't know what's going on here. But if you've played Left Behind DLC from The Last of Us Part 1, then you know exactly what was going on and what to expect from all this. There were some changes. There were some order switching a little bit, but for the most part, pretty spot on. There was one line which is probably a really weird line to have memorized that I waited on the entire episode, and I was like, if they don't say it, I'm gonna be super disappointed. And then they said it, and I was happy. Like all was
Which
well.
line was that?
Um, well, it's kind of gonna spoil. Oh well. Uh, pretty much to kind of like paraphrase it, it's we're gonna lose our minds together.
Hmm.
Yeah, I wanted that line. I don't know why that line is so impactful. Probably because I'm pretty sure she says it. Ellie says it in the game, in the actual Last of Us, like when kind of talking about when stuff happens, and then they obviously say it in the prequel and Left Behind. So I was waiting on that line. I wanted that in there. Storm Reed, is that her name? Who played Riley?
I actually don't know that the actor's name.
I don't. I'll look it up while you start. I think it's Storm Reed. I think I could be really wrong. If I am, I apologize. She did fantastic. I thought. I really, really liked her performance, and we'll let Christian get into his breakdown of the episode.
Yeah, as you previously stated, it was called Left Behind, which is the DLC from the game. So that
It
was
is
awesome.
Storm Reed.
Prequel mission from the game.
Confirmed.
Storm Reed. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of go through this quickly because we are always running out of time.
Notorious for it.
The episode starts. Yeah, the episode starts with Ellie dragging, or she has already dragged Joel to an abandoned house after he got stabbed in the last episode, and took the broken piece of baseball bat out of his gut like a fool. So he's bleeding out, and it's really sad because you see him, shaking and essentially dying, telling Ellie to leave him and go back to Tommy. And Ellie has to make a choice whether she's going to leave him or not, or stay with him. And this whole episode essentially is about choices. So right after that, we kind of flash back to Ellie's past, and 90% of this episode is going to be flash to Ellie's past. So I was really excited to see this going in. I wanted to know how much they were going to take from the game, and they took quite a bit. So we started off with Ellie. She's in seems to be some kind of gym class running, listening to her Walkman, and I noticed that the song she was listening to was a Pearl Jam song. I think the song is called "All for Nothing" or "All or Nothing." It's one of those.
Yeah, I
I
can't
didn't write
remember
it
the name of
down
the song.
because I
It is
didn't.
Pearl Jam though.
Yeah, so you definitely listened to some Pearl Jam. So I thought that was really funny. And then she gets accosted, if you will, by a school bully who we find out her name is Bethany.
Damn
And
Bethany.
Bethany essentially comes for Ellie because her protector is gone. And I've talked about this a couple of times through other episodes, but every episode we are told that Joel is a protector character of sorts, and Ellie gravitates towards protector type people in this universe. That's just kind of her thing, and it's also because of her condition, if you will, where she's always in a position where she needs to be protected. So her protector is gone, and Bethany starts talking mad shit, and then gets hit by Ellie, and they have an off-screen brawl
Talk
that
shit, get
ends
hit.
up. Yeah, seriously. Bethany has to get 15 stitches in the infirmary, and Ellie has a nice shiner around her eye. So
Stitches
that's
are
kind of
brought
what
up,
happens with that.
I feel like, once or twice in this episode previously.
Yeah,
Like
and then we find out
yeah.
why.
Yeah.
So Ellie, like I said, has the black eye, and then Captain Kwong pretty much tells Ellie that she's so smart that she's stupid, and kind of helps her out of a jam, and also gives her her Walkman back. But he essentially gives her two options. Option one, keep fucking around and find out, or option two, follow the rules and eventually become an officer and live the easier life. So he's trying to help her out the best he can without straight up saying like, "I'm going to make sure that you get the best work detail once you age out," which is 13.
He also has a
So
Naughty Dog symbol on his keychain.
I wrote that down. I was going to bring that up after the fact, but yes,
Yeah.
the Easter
Nice
eggs that
little
I
Easter
caught,
egg.
I wrote down, and I'm going to just try to tell most of those at the end of this. So if you end up catching it before me, it's whatever. But yeah, man, I thought that was really cool. I did notice that, and it was red like it's supposed to be. So I thought that was
Yeah.
dope. Then after that, we see that Ellie finally going to bed after the end of a long day of getting punched in the fucking face. Riley sneaks in, who's been gone for I don't remember how long they said Riley had been missing or gone. Uh,
3 weeks
but anyway,
in
she
the
sneaks back
show,
in.
I think.
3 weeks
I think it's 3 weeks in the show. In the
in the
game, it's
game.
46 days or something like that. The
Yeah,
game is longer
46
than
days in the
the
game.
show.
Absolutely. So anyway, they kind of speed run all the stuff for the show just because you wouldn't want to watch a show if you had to wait, 46 days for a character to show up and do a thing, But anyway, and it makes more sense for the show because if they mess with the timeline too much, shit stops adding up. But anyway, she sneaks in and tells Ellie that she's a Firefly, and then asks Ellie to sneak out with her, not to be a Firefly, but to have the best night of her life, essentially. Um, and then I noticed while they were, walking and hiding from, Fedra and all this stuff, Riley said something to Ellie that I wrote down because I thought it was interesting. And she said, "You can't fight everything and everyone. You can pick and choose what's important." And that made a lot of sense, especially at the end of the episode. That kind of comes back up. It's not said again, but I had that in mind when something comes up later that we'll get into. But they break into the Liberty Building, the seventh floor, and they find a dead body that Riley straight up says wasn't.
Uh-oh. Oh, we lost Christian for a minute.
For
Technical issue. Christian, you cut out. There you go. Now you're back.
I'm back in it.
You're back in it. Technical issues. Gotta love it.
Nice. Gotta love it. There's so much going on right now. The internet's being used by everyone in the apartment, so that's how it goes. But essentially, they break in. They get to the seventh floor, and they both find a dead body, and Riley says that body wasn't there before. So I believe 100% that's a red flag, and you should just leave.
Yep.
But with that dead body, they did find a bottle of booze. It was whiskey.
Actually looked like
And
some
they
pretty
also
tasty whiskey,
found
too, in the apocalypse.
it looked like straight up prohibition era whiskey.
I mean, I would have took a swig.
I mean, they don't have to worry about COVID, right?
No.
So, yeah. And then they also found a little baggie of pills. And I wrote this down for later, too. I'm going to go ahead and say it now. But those pills look identical to the pills that Joel is selling in episode 1.
Yep.
So I thought that was a cool little throwback to let you know that Joel's influence is definitely out there when it comes to being a drug salesman. You know what I mean? So that was cool. I think the guy falls through the roof at that part, the dead body.
Yeah, he falls through the floor.
And that what happened? That's right. And that's a scary moment for them. But they have the bottle of whiskey, and on the rooftop, Ellie takes a swig of it and pretends to like it because she wants to impress Riley. And we already know from episode past that she doesn't like whiskey because she takes some of Joel's and is like, "Yep, still gross." So I thought that was really funny that she's trying to impress this girl that she likes. What else happens? So again we see Ellie asks to hold Riley's gun because she has a gun now. That's kind of how she proves that she's in Fedra. And
Firefly.
I'm sorry, and she's a Firefly. And I thought that this was probably the start of Ellie's fixation on weapons in general, but mainly guns. And I thought about it, and I think I know why she likes guns so much now. They don't explain it in the show, but there's just me thinking about it. Remember when I was telling you about her always having like a protector?
Yeah.
I think that a gun to Ellie just represents protection and safety. So if she can have a gun, like it's like power, like unmitigated power is what it is, which essentially is what a gun is anyway. Especially if you have a gun and whoever you're pointing the gun at doesn't have a gun as well. Like it is power. So that makes a little bit more sense to me. And Ellie seems to be kind of caught up with that and always wanting to kind of grow her power essentially. So that made more sense to me why she's always trying to touch guns. Plus the fact that she's a kid and kids like to do dumb shit. So there's also that. Um, which they do a lot of dumb shit in this episode. Riley name drops Marlene in this episode, pretty much saying that Marlene is the person who who got her to join and turned her into a Firefly. So I thought that was nice because I thought they were going to leave that out, to be honest, just because they were skipping through some things. But I'm glad that they didn't leave that out. So it was good to hear that. And I don't want to talk too much about Marlene and ruin, later stuff that can happen later on in the season or for season 2 when we get that. But definitely, it's interesting that she was name dropped.
Marlene.
So after that,
Marlene.
after that, we see that she wants to show Ellie the 4 wonders of the world, which turns into 5 because Ellie is completely enamored by the escalator at the mall that they end up going to, which is pulled from
The mall
game.
scene, well, not scene, but like stage that
Mm.
they had for it was awesome. It looked really good. They did a really good job of like the set.
Want to know why it
set
looks
is
so good?
what I'm trying to say.
You want to know why that looks so good?
Wow.
Because it was filmed in a real mall.
Well, what makes sense? I mean, even the fluorescent lights and how it lights up, which they also, to me, when they turn the lights on, the missus was like, wouldn't everybody see that? And like almost immediately, which is kind of what happens, I feel like with Last of Us, every time we have a question like, wouldn't this happen if we did this? They're almost like, hey, dummy, we already know what you're going to ask. Riley's like, you can't see it. It looks like a bunker from the outside. Like, you just saw it. Like, you can't see anything. Like, they pretty much explain the stuff that you'd be like, well, this doesn't make sense. Like, they'll throw it out there. So they had that little moment doing that. But the mall looked awesome, I thought. Sorry, continue.
Oh, no worries at all. I don't know if you noticed this, but in the mall, there are certain stores that they went into where the neon lights were purple. And we already know that I talk about every time I see it in an episode, I'm going to mention the color purple because it usually means something. So I didn't know if you caught that or not, but I did.
Purple lights.
And I had to write it down. Purple lights. So after this, they go on. The first wonder that she wants to show Ellie is the carousel. So they have the carousel ride, and that's pulled directly from the game as well.
It is.
And then
I will say
Riley,
the order of the wonders is not exactly like the game. It's changed around a little bit.
yeah, I think the last thing they do in the
Carousel was
show, I
near.
think, is the
It's
first
farther
thing they do,
down.
right?
I think. No, the carousel's not the first thing, is it? The first thing was
No. I think the first thing they do is with the masks and shit, right?
No. Mask is later, isn't it?
It's been a minute. I don't remember fully. Maybe I'm wrong. I do know that the order is jacked up.
Yeah, it's
and
changed.
and we'll get more into it. We'll get more
go
into
ahead.
it. But I know they go on the carousel ride, and around this time, before they're having kind of like an intimate moment almost, and the carousel ride breaks down. So Riley goes to fix it, and they start having a conversation. And Riley, at this point, tells Ellie that she got her position for Fedra, and it was sewage. She was a sewage guard, and she was pretty much saying like, "This is how they see me, uh, just watching people shovel shit." And she pretty much couldn't handle that and bounced out and left. But she lets Ellie know that she missed her a lot, and she's the only reason why she came back, which we will learn that is the truth, but it's also BS at the same time. So, which has changed from the game a little bit as well, but we'll get into that. Then they go to the photo booth, and they have their photo booth moment, which is nice. But I remember in the game they didn't actually get those pictures to print out of the machine. I'm pretty sure that they didn't print out in the game, so they just took all and the poses that they have in
Couldn't
the show.
you in the game? Couldn't you send it if you had like your PlayStation link to like your Facebook? Couldn't you send the pictures to your Facebook? Wasn't there like some kind of social link that you could send? Because it was kind of weird that you could send pictures of like 2 little girls to your Facebook or something. There was some kind of weird feature, I think.
Any of that. I didn't do any of that, so
No, I
don't
didn't
want to
do it.
lie
I'm
and
just pretty
say
sure
no.
there was that option because they used to. You know, what I'm talking about like PlayStation will have a thing like share to whatever social media. I think there was something like that for it. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. I feel like it was something like that though.
It's possible, but I honestly don't know. But moving on, the third wonder that she wanted to show Ellie was the arcade. And notice the arcade was full of motherfucking purple lights. So there was that.
Arcade was full of
And then
goodness too that I wanted to
yeah,
partake
man,
in.
they found MK2, but they didn't have any coins. But because Riley has already scouted out this thing and been in the mall before and we'll talk about that more in a minute. She's been in there. She already has coins ready. She broke into the machine. She spent an hour doing it the day before, and they played MK2. And then this is where the story comes from that Ellie told us about in a previous episode, where her friend played Melina one time in the game, and she has a fatality where she sucks a character up and spits out their bones. Like, now we know that's where this comes from.
Yep.
So it was really cool to see that moment. And while they're playing the game, I believe Ellie's doing a Baraka fatality, and they're way too fucking loud, and wake up an infected who is attached to a wall of another shop. So that happens, and I believe that moment's directly pulled from the game as well. And then after that, they almost kiss, and Ellie tries to leave, but Riley wants to show her some other stuff. So
There's a
I'm
lot of
pretty sure
tension
this
in
is
this
the
episode
scene.
between the two. Like,
Yeah, I
a
will
lot of
say
tension.
in the it is it's a lot of tension, and they make it seem like it's all from Ellie's perspective and not coming from um, Riley at all, which is interesting to see that again after playing the game. So I did like that because it made it more suspenseful, if you will. So I did enjoy seeing that. But after that, she gives her the no pun intended volume 2 book that she found for her, and it's a cute moment. They start reading off some of the puns, and then shortly after this, Ellie finds this stash of pipe bombs, and then while Ellie is pissed off and telling Riley that none of this was about her and blah blah blah, this is when Riley decides to drop that this is her last night in Boston, and she wanted to give Ellie a special goodbye, essentially. Um, and then she says in the show, she asked Marlene if Ellie could come, and Marlene says no. But if you played the game, you know exactly why Marlene says no to this, which we won't get into right now, just in case you guys haven't played the game. So we do get that scene. I'm glad that they actually put that in the show, because I was going to be thinking about it if they didn't. Ellie leaves, she's pissed off and she decides to leave. And then she decides to come back and hears a scream, which leads her to a Halloween store, which is pulled out of the game as well. Uh, and Ellie lays out her feelings about Riley leaving and says that she's going to miss her because they're best friends, but she understands that it's her choice. And that stood out because in the show up until now, every single episode, everything that's happened to Ellie, everything that Ellie's ever done hasn't been her own choice. It's always been the choice of the protector characters around her that are leading her in certain directions. So the fact that she is quick to trust people's choices and respect those choices is something that is interesting, to say the least, because she wants that same kind of thing from the people that are around her, which is to respect the choices that she chooses to make, which makes even more sense a little bit later in the episode. So right after that, uh, what happens? I'm trying not to skip around too much. Oh, this is the scene where they dance. She has stolen Ellie's Walkman, and they start listening to music. And I wrote down what they listened to, but I think I erased it on accident here. Uh, I know they listen to Aha and
Yeah.
Etta James. I want to say was Etta James. Yeah, that's what it was. Thank you
Aha's,
for
I think, what they're
reminding
dancing
me.
to, isn't it? I'm pretty sure. Ella James is one of the
I think
cassettes that Ellie had.
no. It's I Got You by Sonny and Cher.
There we
I'm pretty
go.
sure. Yeah. So they're listening to that and dancing, and this is when Ellie straight up asks Riley not to go, and surprisingly, Riley agrees not to go. And then that's when they kiss, which is a moment from the game, of course.
Yep.
Uh, Ellie apologizes, and then Riley's like, "For what?" Because they're both into it. So that's really cool to see another LGBTQ plus relationship in the show slash game that's positive and not negative. So I did enjoy seeing that. And then right during that tender moment, they get attacked by a fucking infected, and they both get bit, which is great. They fight it off with a bat,
Yeah,
and
that was
they
hateful as
shoot it to
hell.
death.
Christian's hateful as shit. They're having a tender moment, then they
It's,
both get a bit, which is great.
it's exactly what happens, bro.
Damn.
Like, They both get fucking bit. Ellie gets bit on the arm, which we already knew, and then Riley gets bit on the hand. And we know from the very first episode that if you get bit on your arms or hands, you don't have much time. You don't have much time at all before you turn. So we know that Ellie survives, and they don't show us what happens to Riley in this. And I don't think you see it in the game either
I've been trying to
because they
rack my
cut that.
brain, and if you do, I feel like you don't, but I could be wrong. Like I
No,
don't know that I
you
necessarily remember it.
you don't see it because in the game it cuts back to Ellie because in the game it's different. Like Ellie doesn't find supplies in the house; she has to go out and
Right.
get supplies. It's a whole fucking mission you have to
Yep.
do. That mission fucking sucked, bro. It was annoying for me. I don't know how it was for you. Anyway, moving on. Um, yeah, moving on. Like we flash back to the house, and in the house, Ellie decides to come back for Joel because she doesn't want to leave him because she essentially loves him like a dad. So she comes back and is frantically searching the house for any kind of supplies that she can use to help him, and she ends up finding a needle and thread. So she uses that needle and thread to stitch Joel up essentially because we've been talking about stitches most of the episode. So she does start to stitch up Joel, and the episode ends with her patching him up. What I can say is, first off, I love the episode. It's another great episode. But there's a couple of changes from this in the game. In the game, like I was saying a second ago, she has to go on her own mission. She goes through uh, some kind of mall actually to go save Joel, and she has to fight off cannibals. And she goes into a downed copter, and in that copter she finds a first aid kit which she brings back to patch Joel up with. And then after she patches him up, she somehow, because we don't see it in the game, but she somehow rigs him up to be dragged by the horse so that they can leave. And I remember that scene, but I don't remember how she gets him attached to that horse, and I'm pretty sure they don't show it. But couple of differences that I wrote down is Ellie's journey with Riley essentially parallels the journey that she has with Joel. They're both protectors to her, and I talked a lot about protectors in this earlier, so I don't want to go back into it. But in the game, Ellie goes through the Colorado Mountain Plaza is what she goes through to get to that military uh, helicopter that was down to get that first aid kit. Um, you already talked about the Naughty Dog logo on the captain's keys. In the game, Riley doesn't prove that she's a part of the Fireflies because she has a gun. She proves that she's a part of the Fireflies because she has the dog tags,
Yep.
and that's how she proves it. Um, when we're in Ellie's room in the earlier episode, after she gets a black eye and goes to bed, you notice that there is a giraffe poster on her wall.
Isn't there
So I don't
also
know if you called it.
or is it at the mall? Dawn of the Wolf?
Dawn of the Wolf is at the mall.
Okay, which is
That was.
from Sarah's room in the game, I think.
I wrote that down. That was my next one. So I'll move on to the one after that. I already talked about it, but the pill bag that you see the dead body have, is already talked that that's like the same exact pill bottle that Joel has in the first episode that he's selling to the Fedra soldiers. Um, what else happens in the game? They steal that alcohol from a character named Winston. They don't actually get it from a dead body.
Winston.
What else happens in the game? Let's see. Oh yeah, in the game, Riley doesn't just become a Firefly because she met Marlene and Marlene was like, "Hey, you want to join us?" She's like, "Yeah." In the game, she has to go through a series of like tests before she can get before she gets admitted to be a part of them. And one of those was actually killing an infected. She had to kill an infected in the game in order to join the Fireflies. So they just took that out for time, I'm assuming. And also, I don't know if you caught this or thought about this, but like the scene in the movie where they're like, or in the show when they're jumping rooftop to rooftop, it reminded me of the beginning of the Matrix when Trinity is like jumping roofs to get away from the agents and shit.
What?
That's what it reminded me of, straight
Okay.
up.
I
Just
mean, okay.
clean out of the Matrix. And in the game, another big difference was in the show, Ellie gets pissed off and leaves and then comes back. But in the game, it's Riley that leaves and then Ellie chases after her. because that leads to a whole fucking thing. And then they have like the water gun fight and all that shit. That's not in the show. But
The
those are
show
my
has like
notes.
I think it was like an advertisement or a billboard with that water gun name. I forget the name of it, but it they reference it, but it's not in the show. Like they don't actually do that part.
Right, that's fair. Makes sense. Well, yeah, man, that was the episode. I thought it was a great episode. I'm ready for the next one. The show has been consistently good, and you don't get shows too often where every episode is a banger. I think the last time we watched something and reviewed it, at least on the podcast, that had good episodes all the way around was, I think, Game of Thrones,
House of the Dragon,
the
probably.
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon
Yeah,
or
that was the last
Boys,
show
which I
that we
think
watched.
House of the Dragon's more recent than the Boys.
Yeah, The Boys was a couple years back, but yeah,
No, it
definitely
wasn't couple.
House of the Dragon
Boys
was
was
one of the
last
most
year.
recent. Yeah, that's right. It was last summer, right? Last
Yeah,
summer.
it's not that far. Okay, so a couple things you didn't touch on. One, they wore in the Halloween store. Ellie wears a wolf mask and Riley wears a clown mask. They did that. They looked just like the ones from the game. There was 2 Easter eggs from Uncharted. Real quick, one of them is they go by a place, and I think it's actually where Riley's camping out, Macho Nacho.
Mm-hmm.
That is a reference from Uncharted. And then the other one would be that the arcade, Raja's Arcade, is a reference to Eddie Raja from the first Uncharted game. So if you don't know
See,
what
I didn't
Uncharted
play
is,
a lot of
Uncharted is another
Uncharted,
Naughty
so I
Dog
wouldn't
game,
talk
which
about.
makes sense that they're doing that. Last thing I have, episode was great. I liked it. It did very good. Following the Left Behind story, there were some changes. Some of the order was a little different, but all in all, it got where it needed to go. It did everything it needed to. It had the parts it needed to, including the lose our mind together for me. I was happy with that. I forgot what I was gonna say. I went completely blank. But yeah, episode was good. I
That's really
completely
funny.
went blank. I had something like loaded up right there, and I don't know what it was. I failed you, Christian.
All good, man. Don't
I
worry about it.
failed you so hard right there.
Okay, you can redeem yourself
They didn't do the
with
hermit.
this.
The hermit's where the book was in the game. I'm pretty sure there was a hermit camped out, not Riley in the mall, and that's where they got the pun book.
Gotcha.
I think. Is there anything else? I feel there was something else, and I'm gonna kick myself about it. Did you see the last thing I had? Ed Boon and Neil Druckmann's conversation. Did you see that after the episode?
I did not.
So I was wondering, like, did they have to pay NetherRealm to use Mortal Kombat or how that worked? I'm guessing they didn't. I'm guessing they just put reference in it. So they put reference, and then Ed Boon said something, and Neil Druckmann immediately responded back. Like, Ed Boon was like, oh, look at this. Like, he was happy about it. He was like, great episode, and he was all cool about it. Neil Druckmann put back, so glad you saw it or whatever, and he's like, I had to pay ode to how I spent a lot of my childhood skipping school. And, like, they've had, like, positive interaction back and forth, and I was like, damn, that's really cool. Like, 2 huge names in the gaming industry and, you know, very significant people, and I was just like, damn, that's awesome. I was really happy to see the Mortal Kombat stuff. But yeah, that's it for Last of Us, episode 7, now that we know what episode we're on, which brings us to episode 8. And if you saw the trailer, which Christian probably didn't, okay, first off, I'm going to say I was wrong. I'm going to say this ahead of time. I'm pretty sure I was trying to make David into 2 people earlier. For some reason in my mind, I was splitting it up. But I'm pretty sure what I was thinking is David. We're going to find out next week because I'm pretty sure we're going to see David.
Oh, I did remember a thing that I started talking about, and I think that we were having issues, but we don't see what happened to Riley, but I'm pretty sure Ellie ends up killing Riley because she told Joel in a previous episode that she's hurt somebody before, she's killed somebody before. And I thought it was going to be uh, David's character, but it seems like it's not David. It's going to be um,
We kind
it's
of
going
already
to be Riley.
suspected it was going to be Riley. Me and you've talked about this on here. It's insinuated. I don't think we ever see it happen. Like, you never see it visually, like, but it's pretty much insinuated like she had no choice. Like, Riley turns, she doesn't, and she had to help her out.
I had to help her out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's that or let her
Yeah, man.
chew on people and turn into a big mushroom. Great episode though. Very emotional. Actor Bella and Storm Reed did fantastic, and yeah, super good episode. I really enjoyed it. Can't wait for the final two. This next one I have a feeling is gonna be. I think it's gonna be pretty damn good. Pretty damn good.
We'll see.
I think this episode is gonna. People are gonna be. I think this is gonna be one where like people are gripping their seats. You know, it's gonna be if stuff that happens that I think is gonna happen. Actually, I think the next 2 weeks, you better get ready. You're gonna be stressed out. Maybe might need to have a cocktail ready for these episodes because they're about to be good. All right, so that brings us, ladies and gentlemen, to the conclusion of this episode, which means it's time to
pass the whiskey.
That's right. Get your
whiskey
for the last call question, and I believe our dreadlock wizard himself might have it this week.
I do. I have a question.
I wish
and
you
my
were a
question
wizard.
is as follows. What horror movie within the last decade made you remember why you love horror so much?
Within the last decade? So we're talking back to 2013? Shit.
Because we've gotten a lot of horror to come out the last 10 years. But there had to be one movie. There had to be one movie that come out and you were like, you know what? Damn, I love horror. This is why.
That's hard. That's really hard.
It is.
I mean, kind of say the first thing that popped in my head, and this, this is definitely on the spot. I didn't have time to prepare for this. I don't know why, but Hereditary popped into my head first and foremost for some reason.
I mean, that's a good one. It's more recent, so you're not thinking back as far.
I know. I'm trying to think
sure.
2013 range. Like, what the hell was I even doing in 2013?
Try like between, try like 2016, 17-ish. Like go that route. And because if you think back too far, you'll think about the movies that came out that, weren't great. Obviously, they're horror, but not all horror is good horror. So like,
I mean,
try,
remember how I told you I felt like someone beat me with a chair? And you're trying to get me to remember. I'm doing good to remember what happened yesterday. Trying to get me to remember 20. What? Do I need to like Google 2016 horror?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's just like,
why are
it's
you
the
going
first
so
time
specific? You must have something in mind. If you're in a specific date,
no,
there's something. What do you have loaded up right there? You have something. Now I'm looking.
I don't have anything loaded up.
Do what?
I don't have anything loaded up.
Okay, so what's one for you then?
I asked you, my friend.
I know. Well,
I don't want to influence your answer.
I'm gonna say Hereditary right now. Just because that's the first thing that popped into my head. Conjuring was just because I thought it was something. The first Conjuring, like they've kind of been going for a while, but yeah, I'm drawing blanks.
So for me,
it was good. I really liked the old school feel. The way they shot it, I liked. Which made me appreciate because I like older style stuff.
You're doing currently is you're naming off movies, and one of the movies that you named is definitely the one that I was going to say. But I didn't want to say it and then influence you.
I mean, I'm trying to. You like put me on the spot. I'm trying to think of what the hell come out when.
Well, I mean, the reason why I said the last decade and then I was saying like 2016-ish is because around that time we started getting horror movies again. And I didn't have anything necessarily in mind, but you were thinking back to like 2013 specifically, and I didn't want you to think about something that came out that far back. I just wanted you to be thinking in general of movies.
I'm literally like typing in 2016, 2017, 2018 horror to see if anything like date-wise. Ooh, okay, Quiet Place would be one that I really enjoy. But I wouldn't really full-on call that horror, though. I guess it does fall into the horror category, but I didn't like that one. Halloween 2018 made me excited for Michael stuff again, but then they shit on me and made me sad. but we're not gonna get into that.
Yeah, no, they did. No, they did.
I think I'm still gonna stick with probably Hereditary, which is 2018. Is that when that come out?
Pretty sure it's 2018. Yeah.
I just feel like Hereditary was a different story, something that we had not had. It wasn't like a remake or anything, and it had some turns in it that weren't necessarily your normal expected turns for a horror movie. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really well done by, to me at the time, a newer horror director. Because I didn't really, I
That's
wasn't
fair.
very familiar with their work until then.
I think so. For me, it's definitely. I'm thinking It Chapter One
Mm-hmm.
because I heard about Andy Muschietti and I didn't know what kind of thing that he was into. I didn't see Mama, I think is what it was called. I didn't watch that one, so I wasn't sure like what kind of horror he could do. And then when it was announced, it wasn't the Skarsgård guy; it was a different actor and a different director. So I was really excited to see what they were going to do. And then once that fell through, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be trash. It's not going to be good. And then I finally got to go see It Chapter One. And that was a great theater experience for me because, one, the movie was good. It felt very 80s, so it reminded me of movies I grew up watching. The
It
kid
had that feel
actors
the
were
whole movie.
phenomenal in that. What's that?
It had like that 80s older, grittier style. I don't know how, like the way it was shot had that old feel to it, and I love that.
I liked the color palette, all that stuff was very well done. I had complaints with it for sure. Like I didn't like some of the CGI for sure. I didn't really enjoy like Pennywise, the character just being like the whole movie just like shaky and stuff. Like that doesn't really do anything for me. But the reason why It Chapter One for me was such a triumph is because that was one of those films that came out and it did so well in the box office and critically that Hollywood started like giving a shit again about horror. So after It One, we got Halloween 2018, we got Hereditary. A24 was already blowing up. We got Midsummer. Like we started getting horror again. We got the Scream 5 or whatever you want to call that movie. That's just whatever Scream 2020 whatever. We got that. We're getting more of that going on. We're supposed to be getting more Stephen King horror coming up in the future. Horror just really started taking the fuck off again. So that movie was the one of the movies that reminded me so much so why I like horror, why I missed horror coming out in theaters. Because before then we were still getting a bunch of remakes and stuff, but a lot of the shit we were getting was like um, The Purge and shit like that. Like
Yeah.
that's not the kind of horror that I'm trying to go and see and spend my time and or money on. Like that kind of stuff isn't good. You know what I mean? I don't want to watch that. The first one was fine. The second one was okay. But like after that,
They're starting to pull
it's
Fast and
garbage.
Furious
So I don't
stuff
want
with
to
them. They're
watch that kind
starting
of.
to run them in the ground.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to describe it. It's Fast and Furious, but horror, and it's not fun to watch. It doesn't make me want to talk about horror. So when we started getting movies like It Chapter One, and people started taking it seriously again, that's when everything starts to become more fun and gritty, but not in a slapsticky gritty way, and in a hey, look what the fuck we can do with a little bit of money. And even movies like The Invisible Man from 2020, like that movie
Great
was
movie.
fantastic and it made what 10 times its budget in what a day 2 days.
Yep.
So like that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So those types of movies really put certain people and companies on the map, like Blumhouse, for an example. And I just said earlier today that they are coming. They're working on a Dead by Daylight film, regardless if it's going to be good or not. They're working on that, and then Five Nights at Freddy's movies coming out, and that has a huge following, my son included. So like that's the kind of shit that I want to see. And because of movies like It Chapter One from 2017, we get to see that shit again. So I can't wait.
Yep. It's a good pick. Good pick. That was a good question. I had to really, yeah. So I'm glad we're kind of on the same page with that because I said it. So get some, Christian. That one though, it
You were
did.
grasping at
There are
straws.
certain movies every now and then,
Grasping.
like we both love horror, but there are certain movies you'll watch and you're like, damn, I love this genre. Like that was cool. That was really cool. It had good ideas, or it was executed well. The cinematography was cool. Like, yeah, horror is an awesome genre. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like your question to be featured on an episode of Sippin With Sin for the last call section, be sure to join the Gilded server. If you don't know what Gilded is, essentially it's just like Discord. Same concept. It's a free app. But join the Gilded server. You can find it at gilded.gg/sinisterpack. In the application, put you are from the podcast, and you'll be accepted. There's a whole section dedicated just to the Sippin With Sin podcast. So you can put your last call question. You can put sinister tales. Put your spooky stories. You can talk to Christian. You can talk about the episodes. You can do suggestions. You can show what you're drinking. Speaking of which, I have a surprise for Christian that I'm going to have to show you guys here soon on social media and Christian for the final episode of Last of Us. And Christian, I hope you are ready. I'm just going to say ready. It's a reference to the episode 3 of The Last of Us.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked for it. But yeah. That's where you can do that. You can also hit us up on social media at Sippin With Sin, SIPPIN with Sin on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and TikTok. You can DM us there to give us your last call question, and we would love to hear from you. Or you can just hit us up to talk to us because, we like to talk to you guys. New episodes are live every Wednesday on Spotify, Anchor.fm, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Overcast, pretty much everywhere podcasts are available. You can find us Wednesdays, 8 a.m. every week. You can find the episode. Be sure to go subscribe if you haven't already. Follow whatever it is on whatever platform. Keep those going. Spotify, all that stuff. Keep subscribing, following, all that stuff. Rate it 5 stars. Share it with a friend. Do all the good stuff. And you can find the video version of the podcast every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Also on my personal YouTube, youtube.com/IamSinister. Every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Go subscribe to that as well. Give it a thumbs up. And you can comment like the lovely Yobi. So we got to shout out Yobi because Yobi is a real one, and we do love Yobi. He's always watching and commenting. And also shout out to H because I know he comments some on the YouTube as well. So shout out to both of them for it. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at IamSinisterTV. And then you can find me streaming on twitch.tv/IamSinisterTV. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/IamSinisterTV and streaming on TikTok and some clips over on TikTok at IamSinisterTV. Christian, where can lovely folks find your beautiful dreadlock self?
See how you guys can find me on social media at what's that?
See how nice I've been to you today? I poked the bear the last 2 episodes, and today I'm extra nice.
Find me, guys, at Vin and Ink on pretty much all the socials. You guys can also find me at the Horrorverse Pod on all the other socials as well. I'm pretty much around all the time, all day. So I will be answering questions, taking requests, whatever you guys need. And that's where you guys find me. I'm also on TikTok at just my name, Christian Vincent, all one word. So you guys can find me doing those. I do movie reviews on TikTok now. So if you guys want to see what I have to say about certain films coming out, then go ahead and do that. Those reviews are always really quick. About 60 seconds or less, so come and check those out.
Those that weren't watching on YouTube and missed Christian's reaction, and pretty much it was him just smiling, shaking his head yes. So, yeah. So that, since you couldn't hear that on the podcast. But, yeah, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. You don't have to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here. Everybody have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you guys next week for episode 8 of Last of Us and possibly The Mandalorian. More Pedro. All the Pedro right now. Dude is freaking everywhere. Christian, shut this thing down.
Thank you guys for tuning in to yet another episode of Sipping with Sin. Be sure to leave a 5-star review, smash that like button, and above all else, guys, above all else, I'm going to leave you with 3 words. 3 words that I always leave you with. Go ahead and say them with me before you click off the video. Don't get gutted.
See you guys next week.